Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tony with Prohl Design, and today I'm going to share with you my reel from the 90s all the way to now and how I used Lightwave 3D in multiple different pipelines. I got to use it with Max and Maya and V-Ray, as well as game engines such as Renderware and Unity. A little bit of Unreal when I was doing some testing in Unreal. I'm even today currently using it with interior design and CNC manufacturing work. I will talk over the video as well during it just to kind of give some insight in how I did use it within those pipelines. So enjoy! Alright, here was a DAZ Lightwave Max mix-up. So we used the DAZ for the females. Motorcycle was built in Lightwave. Brought it to Max for rendering in Mental Ray. A neat, fun project, and a pretty big one to do all these big scenes for a big screen above the machines in the casino. And here is a Dirty Harry real-time one, which was done in Renderware. All the modeling was done in Lightwave, and then we put it together inside of Max and exported to Renderware. And here's just some samples of old scenes working in Lightwave now, which is kind of neat. Testaments to its unchanging architecture, right? So all these meshes are loaded into 2023, and they were all for a real-time or pre-rendered environment. Yeah, there's the real-time jet right there. And here is just showing some modeling process. I usually like using the layers as kind of as a dumping ground for parts of the mesh, so I can, try different things in a layer before committing. And that was for a real-time project. Spider-Man was a neat project we did, hybrid of 2D, 3D. So there's some hypervoxels in there. The models were done in ZBrush by a talented artist. A pretty neat looking game that we created as far as just this kind of static with some dynamic movements. And here is a Wizard of Oz background scene that I created in Lightwave using the instancer. Pretty neat that we can combine all those things. This one was Invaders from Planet Moolah. This was a little UFO test. I designed a game with these little space aliens, and this was their little spacecraft inside the game here. And just showed all the different shadings for it. This one was a dragon that we created that had all these extra pieces and parts. That was the 3D model of the dragon that I got to model from a design. And here's all the different parts and pieces for the model that we had to create. Had tons of different parts, from tails to horns to food. And here's another process just showing how I create my meshes using the layers to help as parts. And this was for a real-time game as well. Eventually made its way to Renderware. But these little fishes have that kind of Nemo look and had expressions and morph maps and animations. Neat. This one was the shark mesh for the attract screen, and it's just using one mesh with texture map swaps. So you can have different style of sharks, like this old man shark here, including the morph targets and visual for it. Here is just showing a little shoe model I had to make for that same game, and just low poly modeling, and then had to make it work for real-time engine at the end there. And here is one where we would bake the light maps down in Lightwave for shadowing for inside Unity. And this is going back to that other game with the little treasure chest built here. And here's just a little sample of, I got to animate the character being trapped in this little tiny treasure chest as an attract sequence for this aquarium looking thing that sat on top of the casino machines. Pretty big screen. It was two 1920 screens next to each other, which was pretty neat to see this huge big aquarium, and you would sit there and you'd watch this animations take place. It's a Scrabble game, so we were testing bullet dynamics, and we would do eventually swap outs of the parts to have it, spell different words and things like that. So kind of a neat way to do it dynamically. And here I'm using cloth effects on a piñata, and I use fiber effects for the fibers in Modeler. Pretty easy setup. and just to try to give that pinata look for a product that we had a pinata in. I believe it was all pre-rendered in the end, but just kind of gives that neat look of hitting it and watching the little tiny fibers move back and forth. This was for a Pegasus game, so the character was animated in Max, brought into Lightwave. I think point caching was the way, maybe it was skin mesh, and I used fibers and fiber effects. I believe the fibers came from ZBrush, and here is just what it looked like after rendering. Rendering was done in V-Ray instead of Max, and then the hair fibers were brought back in and then comped in, so to get that cool just horsehair going using some fibers. I believe I used some additional effects in After Effects as well, like little additional wave warps and things like that. Now, here was a fun little project that we had to do the track sequences for, using Lightwave as, kind of motion graphics. So there's these cool tools in Lightwave. One's called Inertia, and it just basically can create those kind of contrails using meshes. So here it just kind of shows wrapping around this flat polygonal lady and just using it as kind of this cool compositing tool, plus some particles that would get rendered out separate. It's a lot of fun to actually create these neat sequences. They had different colors as well for these bands, and a pretty easy setup to do some quick cool visual effects and then bring it over into After Effects for post. And that's just what it looks like in VPR as an example. And here are some fluid dynamics that were done on this witch's broom here. One of the first fluid dynamics I worked with the TFT fluids in an earlier version of Lightwave, and it worked out pretty great. It was pretty easy to set up and looks cool. And some more bullet fun. Here is a game we were testing with Mousetrap, and we were just using Lightwave here to go ahead and create trigger events. Really neat to create all these events and test it and see it in VPR with the plastic look. We had lights on the balls being trailed. One thing about layout which is cool is the motion blur you can actually view in OpenGL, which is a pretty unique feature to Lightwave. You can see right there the OpenGL has the little guys being blurred there, even in the texture shaded solid. So it's neat to view motion blur. And here is an Aladdin game that's also real-time, and we were testing out different GI solutions and looks for the 3D models. It was all supposed to be real-time in the end. We ended up pre-rendering the final one. And here's some more bullet tests also for that Aladdin product and a Lord of the Rings product that we had coming up. I think it was one of my first tests in bullet, just to see how it all worked with the fracture and the parts, getting hit. And here it is in action. I believe I used bullet and hard effects here to blow up these buildings, and then use some cloth effects for the hanging stuff. And the sequence here, all just being blown out with fireballs hitting them. And this was brought back over to Max in the end for rendering in V-Ray. And here's some final shots. So hypervoxel is used for all the explosions and dust. And then here's a shot where we used fracture and bullet dynamics to blow up the frozen purple containment from the genie. And some more hypervoxel love here for this little enemy coming out of the ground. Just all comped in After Effects there as a visual aid. And here's some more bullet. This one was with using one mesh with a bunch of different models as parts, and then just the explosion right in bullet. And you get this nice cool poppy explosion. And here's one of the ships from the battleship that I modeled as the first step. So we wanted to have that kind of look of the battleship, like a more modern battleship with some details, but then the peg holes exist inside them. We ended up not going super shiny, and here's just a little example of exploding it in Lightwave. And example render And then here's the final shot where we kind of didn't go with such shiny ships. We just went with more of a realistic look, and they have this huge big sequence battle shooting pegs at each other. Even the watercolor changed there from blue to red. It was rendered in V-Ray, and explosions came from Lightwave. Some of the models came from Lightwave. It's a neat product to work on. And there's the logo. Final logo was Lightwave as well. And here's also another baked real-time where we baked in the color map plus the lights for a real-time kind of dollhouse clue style game. So we baked them, I think, at 2K resolutions. Here's a fun project that we got to work on where the female was going to be swapped with, I believe, video footage, but the dragons will be CGI. And this was the test, just look. We did want that kind of, saturated fantasy look to the product. And then there's just the dragon and Lightwave, including its rig. The tests, and you can see VPR is pretty snappy. It's neat to see these scenes actually work again in the modern version of Lightwave perfectly fine. And this was a Jackpot Party IP where it used to be just a 2D style game, but we started having ideas of what it would be like in 3D. So of course bringing the logo is important with all the extrusions and look and dimension to it. And then, to always task as the director on these projects to make a visual look for it. So here's some renders in Lightwave GI just to kind of give that look of the models and everything. And in the end, yes, it made its way back to Max and V-Ray for rendering, but all the models came from Lightwave, as well as some proof of concepts for animatics. And then compositing was After Effects. Those are Lightwave particles there for the little confetti burst. So nice combination of softwares here. It was a lot of fun to get to build all these items, animate some, rig some. A nice huge sequence of events here. This was just basically an idea of what it would be like if, hey, this Jackpot Party game had really modern, cool tech. And this is kind of the gameplay showing off what it could be like. So yeah, there's the end shot here where these presents would fall down and you get multipliers if they stay on the disc. But no, oh wait, even better, 10x. So make lots of money. A lot of fun getting to be a part of the beginning of this and the end of it, putting it all together with my talented team. Speaking of talented team, yeah, this was a cool Iron Man project we got to work on. So I believe the Iron Man, I don't know if it was Maya or Max, I don't remember, but we brought it into Lightwave to do some of the more effects stuff, so particles and things like that, and working with that process, using FBX. Some test renders in Lightwave for the suit, as well as even creating rigs for the characters, for like his gun here to just be controlled on one controller for his weapon. And then we can even bake all that down and send it over back to Max for rendering, which was cool. But even so, we always did kind of a previs look inside Lightwave for a visual look of what it could look like material wise for approvals, because Lightwave was pretty fast and pretty quick for me to get shots out. And here is another thing where I created a controller for the Iron Man Tony Stark heart. So yeah, just one little controller to rotate and open all the items, and then flipping VPR on to see how it renders. I believe this stayed in Lightwave because it was smaller shots and we just rendered it in Lightwave. I don't remember if it was a transition or if it was for a bonus or a symbol animation, but a lot of fun creating it. And here's some hypervoxels. So hypervoxels has a really cool slices and sheets for animation. So it can render really fast. The only issue is I think it capped at 512 for the resolution per sprite. or per slice rather, because it is using volume. And here it is in this shot at the bottom there, just uses a looping cloud cycle for this big track that happened on the top screen. So all the visual effects, Lightwave here and some After Effects, and Iron Man mesh was rendered in V-Ray, and then comped all together. I even believe I used the After Effects, or Lightwave to After Effects camera, so I can add things like little particles that if you look a little bit, they're kind of flying through the Iron Man model there, just some kind of wind distortion. Really cool, fun project to work on. Lord of the Rings, so we got to work on Lord of the Rings series, which was great, and here's some just dynamic shots that were done in Lightwave with cloth effects as well as bullet. I believe this too was one of the first bullet entries when it made it into Lightwave to destroy all these items, as well as create smoke and particle effects that were rendered out of Lightwave and then comped in the shots like you see here. And this is when the trebuchet basically shoots these things and you get awarded some award for whichever one you destroy on the battlefield. And then these are the final shots here. So again, rendered in V-Ray effects or done in Lightwave, and a nice process. The Bullrog. So we got to do a shot with the Bullrog or a whole sequence where he's fighting Gandalf, kind of in a video game look. So here we use the combination of Maya fluids, because our Maya guy, he knew Maya fluids, and I knew how to use hypervoxels, so put them together because hypervoxels kind of gave you that nice fine fire look where the fluids was more wispy and bigger, so combining the two actually worked out great. And then also moving the scene back and forth worked out pretty good for us as well. We had some issues with camera matching, but we resolved them in the end. And then we point cached the model too, because I believe I used the Bullrog Z-depth pass from Lightwave. So I can comp the fire through his face like you see here. Bye Bullrog, see you later. He's gonna fall. Whee! Alright. And this one was just using audio in Lightwave to create those little trails and color swaps. Here's another bigger example where we have these projects all done in Lightwave. So 3D mixed with this little 2D sprite. There's my face on it. I'm rocking it out. And I use the audio to animate those speakers bouncing and lights getting more intense. It's a lot of fun. Well, that was all rendered in Lightwave as a freelance kind of project. And we did several for this company. Here's one just with the football stadium. So the football stadium in the background is 3D while the little characters are 2D. And then comping the two together. My buddy, he did all the animation for the character work. And I just did all the 3D parts for it. And this was for a kiosk where you can actually put anyone's face in there, which was kind of cool. Cool tech. Here is this old, early 2000s Net in the Line short we made for our animation studio. And it's a cute little fight between the net and the line here, all done in Lightwave. For the grass and stuff, we use HD Instance. You know, all just character animation done in Lightwave. No GI in this one. We actually did try F prime though, rendering test down here, but it looked really cartoony, oversaturated look is what we were going for. And still pretty renderer for being a early 2000s, like 2003, 2004. Here was one we did for like a shooting place where we had to do all this character animation and these guys shooting. This was a mix of Mixamo as well as Lightwave to do these sequences. Here is for a logo design, how to do this ship and make it more just black and white with some outline strokes, because we wanted to put it on business cards and make it just clean and simple and easy, just with some kind of mixed shading, but really clean looking in the end. Turned out pretty cool. The client liked it. Gives a nice visual look to his business. And here's more logo work. Occasionally I get these little logo jobs where I can do them in 3D and then show them, hey, you can have these cool animated lights and dimensional look to the logo instead of just the 2D version, which we usually develop first. And here's another example. I did a YouTube channel, Back to the Toy Box, with my son. And this kind of just shows we did a Back to the Future style logo in Lightwave here. Got the motion blur. And that's just what the final shot looks like with the lights going by it. And another logo here where I had to make this little turbine and little NOS can just so we can put it behind the Texas Punisher style logo. And it's for drag racing, so it's pretty cool. And here, more logo work. This is when I started getting into actually building things. So I used Lightwave a lot to develop the items first before I brought them to reality. So here's just showing how I would create all the parts out of CNC machine or laser etching inside of Lightwave. And it works good as to show clients like, hey, this is how the sign gets built. Same thing with this one here, using Octane render just to kind of show what his logo could be like before he even bought it, showing the different layers, how we would have the lights behind it, all here in Octane. Super quick and easy, but a lot of fun. Now this is a great AR project, augmented reality. And you can see the light maps and the textures are working in Modeler for previs, because we would usually bake down everything, and this goes inside the Unity game engine for a phone or tablet. And you can visualize right in Modeler here all the shadowing and GI and the look of it. And here's for a product placement. So I had to build this environment store behind it and then build the items sitting there. It's like a QR kind of scanning type item. These are RF tags rather. So I just go ahead and created all the models and look for the product development that they can use for advertising. And it's just pretty looking. And here's another one for the industrial arena. So this was also done for augmented reality. It was done inside Lightwave and Unity. So all Lightwave for the modeling and baking and the animation, and then brought inside of Unity. And I even tested this in Unreal when Lightwave had the Unreal, or it has it now, but when they first got the Unreal, I just tested it to see how that would work. But in the end, it's all Unity because, easier for me to get it on the devices, on the phones. So neat to test. We've been trying to get in this demo here more bells and whistles of the reflections and things like that all inside of Unity. And it really just shows kind of the process. So you can bring this out to the field, stand right here, turn it on, and you'll be in this space so you can kind of see what kind of space you need. You see this animation happening around you, which is kind of cool, just to give them a visual aid. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Now I have a idea what it's going to be like. This was old Vegas slots. So this was all Lightwave and Unity as well. So pretty neat to develop all these kind of old school slot machines, all modeled in Lightwave and in different parts, so we can reuse pieces inside the game engine. And it's neat to previs everything in Lightwave. We can previs even the way the textures kind of act, so they get approved from the design. And then we can move forward and just have this kind of neat workflow between Lightwave and Unity, including all its little animated textures. And here's another real-time world that was using a backdrop inside a gaming item. And see all the trees are just baked down to cards, which is neat. And then because the camera just kind of sits and rotates in the middle. And these are just some little animations for symbols. So in gaming you have these little symbols of characters and items, and you get to just do these little cool animations with inside the symbol itself, and then render out that sequence as a little symbol animation. So when you get 5 of these guys in a row, they just do the little animation. Same thing with this one, this pretzel here. I had to use the object swapping method in Lightwave to do the bytes, because we didn't have the real-time booleans yet. Though I believe I used the third powers boolean on the model, at least. Maybe, I don't remember if I did, or maybe just normal booleans. Could have been older than that. Anyways, this was a lot of fun. It's fun to see all this stuff still work in 2023. This was also a background for a real-time game here. And you see there's really no transparencies in this whatsoever because it's going on the phone, so you really don't want to have transparencies in your real-time engine. So everything's kind of just baked and then cut into polygons like the end of the trees there. So not too dense, they're all just little triangles, but it was a great workflow because you can render out prettier stuff in Lightwave and then go ahead and create a card from it. And like this one here, this is a transition that made its way inside Unity. Still works in Lightwave, which is awesome. You can even put on BPR and see motion blur, which is kind of cool. You see it's just using all these carded and then rigged characters that are rendered out to give a neat look to the transition, as you see there. A lot of fun, and it works great inside Unity. It pretty much looks like that without the motion blur, but pretty neat to do these cool transitions. And here's another little example of a world where you're moving around the world and you bake in the light maps and you have your tileable textures. Even that little flat character could be rigged up and animate. So another one. So here, this is all in layout. You can see you got fogging effects, and you got the guy swinging in there, all rigged and carded as well to give you that illusion like he's swinging through the world. Pretty neat way to do things, all inside Unity and all running on a phone, so you got no transparencies. And here is the other character, the high-res version of her, where she's rendered in Lightwave for the different poses, as well as symbol animation we did with her. She had this expanding animation as well, where she would just sit and sparkle. Kind of fun to have a neat kind of pipeline. You get to do all of these different action and events. So here's one, like you saw there, where he's holding on to her. So this would also then be carded onto lower polygon mesh and then re-rigged and then animated inside Lightwave to Unity. And here is Zombie Bop. So this was a game also made for phones. You see that's the little carded zombie bird, all rigged and animated in Lightwave, and then made its way to Unity. And same thing with the zombie, but he actually had volume to him. And this just kind of shows like, oh, I needed to do more high-res little adverts with the depth of field for our static screens and ads. And then this is the first sample rendering in Lightwave, just to say, okay, we're going to do these gesture moves on the touchscreen to kill the zombie and have them explode or blow up and have the guts and the blood, which are just a bunch of carded polygons with blood on them, rather than using particles. I think in the end we use some particles inside Unity. And here is Metamorphic, used to paint on the grass. This was before the paintbrush that's in the instance there now, but it worked pretty good to basically paint items directly on the meshes. So it's a lot easier now in 2023. And there's VPR resolving all that geometry to make a pretty picture. And here's some just more examples of using Lightwave for rendering these items, everything modeling, rendering, animation, all done in Lightwave for these guys, for these apps. Yeah, fun environments, fun characters. And now we're off to the world of interior design. So I use Lightwave, and in this sample I actually use Lightwave, bringing it over into Unity to try to see, can I develop interior design in a real-time world, and just testing out Unity to see what it looks like. And here, we usually have to model a lot of objects that we can't find online. So here I'm just using third powers tools to just distort the edge of this cushion to make it more organic. before we bring it into our home styler app, which that's what we use for our interior design. It's logo design. And here, similar kind of thing. This is a 3D geo wall, so it basically, I'm using Lightwave to create a distortion on these planks, and then I can, validate if I can actually create this in the real world, which we could with our CNC machines. We could go ahead and create something cool and unique for someone's wall. And I just use a ripple effect to distort the mesh, as you see here. You can change the depth then of it to make it thicker or thinner, and then you can show this to clients. So a real neat way to kind of visualize neat geo walls. And same thing here, we developed this table that was all laser cut out of acrylic pieces for this company. And then as you see here, I prevised it all in Lightwave first for this new area that they're going to have built. And they wanted this cool conference table. So I was just testing it all in Lightwave first to visualize it before we took it to the final build. Here's some more furniture modeling where I had to build all these buttons. I just built one part because I had to build this chase. So just a way to do it in parts, and then go ahead and extrude it. Modeling's pretty easy in Lightwave, pretty satisfying because you don't have to worry about too many gizmos. And you see here I just had a low background one as a test item, and I'm using the magnet tool to push and pull polygons. So neat way to do modeling. It's pretty quick as a polygon modeler. Here's some more bullet dynamics for interior design where I made these pillows expand, just so they can be in one of the shots. Or if I needed to ever create any custom pillows and things like that, I can use that method. And here is another geo wall where I'm using Octane to create a look of a geo wall for a client. And that would eventually be CNC cut and have lights behind it, and it's a great, as well as wallpapers, so it's really cool to combine it all. And here are our geo tiles. We can CNC cut all these kind of custom tiles, but I go ahead and do these pre-visualizations inside of Octane and Lightwave, as you see here. And the tiles look exactly like that, which is kind of cool. So we can create these neat custom pattern geo walls out of plywood or any type of wood. And here's some examples of using Octane Render for kind of staging shots. And I'm using the path tracer here, which is a little slower of a renderer, meaning it's really bouncing all those details around, but it's really beautiful. And Octane Render, such a great render engine to get that photoreal look. And here's another one, just a different room. And I think most of the rendering wasn't so bad. I think most of it was probably 20 minutes, to clean up all the noise. And if I had to clean up further, I had a noise reduction tool in After Effects as well. And I really love the Octane that you could zoom in on an area and see it refine. Maybe VPR can have a version of this as well. But Octane is included now in 2023, so kind of neat that you can just go ahead and start using it. Beautiful render engine. And this here is showing a 720 render that actually came from our home styler. I brought it inside the Lightwave to do tests in case they needed to render offline this environment for our clients. And this place is not even built yet. It's really cool to actually visualize it all in 3D. A lot of the modeling here was done in Lightwave. And you can see I could just kind of orbit around too, which is neat to show a client.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video down memory lane using Lightwave 3D in multiple pipelines. It still is a great and relevant tool. My plan and goal is to try to make some more tutorials using the more current versions of Lightwave for all the Lightwavers out there that, maybe don't have the use cases that I have. I've used it in multiple pipelines throughout the years and it's been nothing but wonderful for me. So I hope you enjoy this video. Please like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you next time.